All right, hey. Wait a minute. I don't see anything. We got to start. Hey, listen, everybody. Welcome back to the Sober Voyager podcast. I kind of got a late start in that. My name is Rich Seidel. I'm your host, and I just want to thank you all for tuning in again. I know it's been a long day. You're probably tired of looking at my face and hearing my voice. But you know what I hope you're not tired of is all the great guests that I've been able to bring into the show today. And we got another rip-roaring show today. I got Wren. How do I pronounce your last name, Wren? Goolsby. Yep. And I got Paul Aston with me. And they both represent... we'll call it Webserv right now, but there's so much more to it. It's more than just Webserv. You've got higher purpose,
recovery, virtual outpatient program with supportive housing, and then Paul has
Bright Path Mental Health, virtual outpatient in Irvine.
Wow, we got these guys, and these guys are like they have the total package. They got great stories, and they're promoting. And this is the thing I want everybody to be super aware of. One of the main topics we're going to talk about today is end overdose, and it's awareness. It's a golf tournament at Torrey Pines. Yep. And what's the dates?
October 4th and 5th.
October 4th and 5th. And is October overdose, like, is SAMHSA got something to do? What's going on in October that this was the time?
As overdose
awareness
month. I believe, no, it's not. We're trying to find the right date in between other conferences so we can capitalize on the most people coming to our event.
Okay, got it.
So October 4th and 5th were the dates that Paul and I were able to secure with Torrey Pines, and we're doing so much more than just a golf tournament, and we'll talk about that in this show today. For everybody to be able to come out and be part of it.
So everybody doesn't have to pay $750 or $900 to play, or what's the deal with that? I looked at that. That's kind of like, obviously it's for industry people to come and participate as a, sponsor.
So what we're trying to do, obviously, it's a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Webserv, we're not making one penny. All proceeds are all going back to end overdose.
Okay.
So we're not trying to inflate the prices, but we're also trying to make money for ending overdose, for saving lives.
100%.
So the proceeds are going to be going to getting Narcan training, also buying Narcan and distributing it. End overdose goes to almost weekly events where they distribute Narcan to the public.
Okay.
Money has to be able to buy this Narcan to be able to give out.
Sure.
So that's part of this. We have so many different things involved in this, though. I would say the golf event is almost the icing. So because we're trying to kind of do this collective where we're blending the lines between recovery and addiction with Hollywood. We have some speakers that are in Hollywood. We have some speakers that are in the treatment center space, like Bobby Ferguson with Jaywalker is going to be presenting Friday night. And if there was probably a Mount Rushmore of treatment center owners, Bobby's probably on it. So we're trying, and we also have some attorneys as sponsors. We have some banks as sponsors. We're trying to not just have this be a recovery event.
Sure.
We're trying to bring awareness to all different kinds of verticals.
Right.
So we have a general admission where if you pay $400, you could come to this dinner. But it's not just any dinner. It's going to be an amazing dinner, steak, chicken, vegetarian, overlooking the ocean in Torrey Pines. We're going to have a DJ, Heidi Lawson, who's a really famous DJ. We're going to have a comedian, and Chappelle Lacey, who's going to be, he does recovery comedy.
Yeah.
He's hilarious. And then we're also going to have, speakers Friday night. And then we're going to have golf on Saturday with awards and different things with different hole sponsors and different events. But if you don't like golf, we also have a certified yoga instructor named Larissa who's going to be there doing yoga. We're going to have a sound bath. We're going to also have a pickleball tournament.
See, it's not that I don't like golf. It's that I'm no good at golf.
Me
but
neither.
I do love yoga. I do love yoga. So let's
we're gonna even have pickleball tournament.
Oh,
we're gonna have a pickleball tournament also.
Okay, got it. So what price gets you into all that? So everybody knows.
So if you paid $400, you would get to go to the dinner. You'd get to do pickleball, yoga, sound bath, and the lunch.
I'm in.
So we have an awards
my price
lunch.
range, and those are the things I love.
There we go.
Like if you're out there and you want to join me, it's $400 to help end overdose, bring awareness.
Yep.
Yoga, pickleball. What else?
Sound bath.
Dinner. I like. You know what I'm good at? I'm good at eating.
Dinner.
I'm good at yoga and
it's going to be a great dinner. It's going to be a great lunch. Even lunch the next day.
Yeah.
Lunch the next day. So and we're going to have Judith Landau's going to present at that. She's another mogul in the industry.
Okay.
We're going to have Brandon Turner, who's a professional skateboarder but also owns a treatment center.
Got it.
He's going to be speaking on Saturday. We're really trying to make an amazing event.
Sounds fun.
Everybody that can go to raise money.
Yeah.
And it actually is also a tax write-off because End Overdose is a non-profit.
Sure.
So we're trying to make it as easy as we can.
Right.
But we also do need to make some money from it.
So there's like an agenda. Friday night we're gonna have dinner, guest speakers, music, comedy show. Saturday is gonna be the golf tournament or pickleball, yoga, sound bath, a lunch, auction, and some more guest speakers. So we're trying to make it a 2-day event. And it's also going to be for networking as well. So a lot of different facilities are going to be there, hopefully to meet new other facilities to be able to work together and really just bring awareness. Because in Overdose, not only do they go to bring awareness to treatment centers, but they also go to schools, high schools. Sure. So that recently they just went to Newport Harbor High School and they got the principal involved and they got all the teachers now have Narcan on basically in their office just in case, right?
Right, yeah.
God forbid something were to happen. Not saying that everybody's doing drugs in high school, but it needs to be known that it's in everything these days, right?
Sure,
the fentanyl overdose has gotten so bad, they're the cartels are bringing it in, and it's cut with in cocaine, ecstasy, all different types of pills that look like Xanax, but they're cut with fentanyl.
Oh, I know. I'm in the industry. I know what it's like. It's brutal. I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's a much needed event for sure. I mean, the group itself. They got to get out there to the community. It's like the treatment center industry doesn't need as much awareness as the community does.
And that's why we're trying to bring in all verticals. To try to bring awareness to everyone. And I'm glad he brought up the silent auction because I just wanted to bring up too.
What's in the silent auction?
The Noel Foundation is one of our sponsors, which is the lead singer of Sublime's Foundation.
Okay.
Who passed away.
Right.
And we're going to be having like a record from them that's signed. So everybody's trying to contribute the most they can to make the money for End Overdose. We have several amazing sponsors that are all going to be doing different things for the auction.
They're playing at the U.S. Open on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right.
Didn't they play last week too?
Well, I don't know. I don't think they played last week.
Okay.
Not yet. They're going to play this Saturday.
Sublime with Rome. I've seen them a couple times.
But but it's going to be not with Rome or whatever. Because I know there's controversy behind that. I thought it said that on the thing, but I thought the Sun was going to be singing.
No, the Sun is going to be singing
this
weekend. Yeah.
Oh, he is. Okay.
The Sun is, he's had some trial and tribulations through his recovery too.
Right.
He's in recovery, and now he's playing with Sublime.
Sublime, yeah.
And he's doing a really good job from what I hear. So
sounds like.
So the U.S. Open started last weekend, but he's playing this weekend.
Yeah, they're playing on Saturday. Yeah, that's going to be cool.
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, honestly, the reason Paul and I really wanted to partner up with End Overdose is like, I've been in behavioral health for a long time now. I think 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
And I have sober livings. I've had them for about 12 to 14 years. And I never, to be honest with you, had any high risks happen in my sober livings for 12 years. And then when the fentanyl epidemic came in, it was like I've had, unfortunately, at different times, 2 different clients come back under the influence of fentanyl and die in my sober livings.
Yeah.
And that's not, it wasn't easy for me to say that to the world out there because I had such a huge reputation because I run a really tight ship.
Yeah.
But even running a tight ship, it can still happen to the best of us. And it was really hard for me to work through that and call the mom and dad and explain to them what happened. The last thing you want to do is call the worst. The worst, yeah.
It's the worst thing.
The worst thing. And then I had another altercation with a same thing, kid after drug testing, said he was going to run the store, came back and waited for everyone to go to bed and took a lethal amount of fentanyl. in the bathroom, and luckily an hour later, we found him in the bathroom and Narcan him. And we Narcan him like 6 times because each time we Narcan him, he'd wake up and then he'd go right back out again. And the breathing was so heavy and he was purple. And the paramedics came and Narcan him maybe another 4 or 5 times to the hospital. And he was in a coma for like a month, but he came out of it and he's in full recovery now. And this has been years have gone by, but it's just like, oh my God, like, if I hadn't had the Narcan, that guy would not be alive today.
100%.
And so it's just good. Now I have Narcan in my truck. My sober livings have Narcan, and for the community to have easy access to Narcan, it's great what In Overdose is doing, because if you go to buy Narcan, it's like $100.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how like they make it so they it's like so cost prohibitive that people to have it around on the fly, because you kind of, it's one of those things where you don't expect it to happen, but God, when it happens, when you have that available, it's life-saving, life-changing, and will alter the course of that man and that man's family's life and the future of that man's life. Like so dramatically. It's an incredible drug, actually.
100%.
What it does, and we've had the same situations too. You know, I've been doing this for 10 years too, and there's nothing more powerful than the whole when it's funny how how Narcan came on the scene, and prior to Narcan, like 2014, 15, 16, before the fentanyl epidemic, everybody was first dying. It was like really about heroin and then oxys, and everybody was basically dying on this. Nobody ever even heard of fentanyl. Now, you don't even hear of people overdosing on heroin anymore or like oxys or roxys. It literally, and because if they did overdose on oxys and roxys, it's a pressed pill that's got that they think they're buying, and it's really fentanyl. It's like a press pill. That's, it's not actually it's just a gut pill that's got fentanyl in it, designed specifically for a short. It gets you high for just a very short period of time, and then you got to have more. And they've refined the process, and that's the scary part about when kids go through the process of the progression of disease, and this is something we can all talk about because we went through it too. And I know I'm interested to hear what your guys' story is, what your story is. When it starts out, it's usually like, hey, like for me, I'm 58. I'm gonna be 59 pretty soon, so I'm kind of getting up there, you know. But so
you look good.
Yeah, I'm looking good. My hair looks good. I always talk about I want my hair to look good. If anything's gonna look good, I gotta be. And it started out with, you start out with the progression of the disease. And this is something everybody, as a parent, as a family member, as a brother or sister, you watch each other and you watch your family members. It starts out with, hey, listen, it's Super Bowl Sunday, it's New Year's Eve, it's a Christmas party, and the family's it's Thanksgiving, whatever it may be. You grow up and you see the normalcy of drinking. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Smoking cigarettes, drinking. It's cool. And all kids grow up and you know what they want to do? They want to get old enough where they can smoke and drink. And then a little bit of weed comes into play, right? And the progression starts, and then all of a sudden, like in my day, it was Quaaludes. Like all of a sudden, Quaaludes are like pills, right? Black Beauties were the speed version, and Quaaludes were the downer version, right? And you didn't progress to the hard drugs. Nowadays, though, in today's environment, what you got to look for is the medicine cabinet, because in that medicine cabinet, there's a little blue pill. What's it called? Xanax. Well, there used to be Valium too back in the day, right?
Valium and white bars.
Exactly. And well, Xanax it could be they're
blue.
white too, blue.
White and blue.
They're white and blue. And but so what happens is the progression of that, and that's how kids start out, and the family members, and then too, so hydrocodone. It basically is another thing that gets prescribed. A lot of times, how many kids in treatment that you've come across, they were good athletes. They were doing sports. They were the star of the family.
Got injured.
They got injured.
Gave them what is it called? What's the other word for hydrocodone? Why am I trying to think of Vicodin?
Vicodin. Oh yeah, Vicodin. Yeah, so that's
so you get Vicodin.
Because when you hear the word Vicodin, it's a prescription
yeah,
drug.
It's a prescription
It's okay.
drug. Yeah.
It's like, hey, the doctor prescribed it. It's for your knee, and the next thing you know, the progression starts.
Yeah. Vicodin, and then it's oxys.
Oxys.
Yep. And then they can't get oxys or Vicodin anymore, so they get heroin.
Yeah, and that's how kind of the progression. And now heroin's kind of like out of the equation, at least around here.
Yeah,
and it's just all fentanyl, pressed pills.
Yep.
And then that's why we're dealing with this unreal. What do you know what the statistics are right now for?
I know in the last couple of years, and it could be more. It was like over 100,000 deaths of fentanyl overdoses. So.
I think one of the nice things that I was looking up the statistics, and this is why end overdose and what you guys are trying to do with this with the distribution of Narcan is because of Narcan though. The amount of overdose right now is like I could look it up right now probably.
It's crazy.
And it's like a crazy, crazy number of what it used to be, but it's a little less because of Narcan distribution.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I was going to get.
Great.
I mean, it's not a lot, but it's enough to say, hey, it's working.
Yeah,
and that's why it has to become more available and has to become the awareness and education for it has to become
and I think that
primary, especially
the awareness and education of Narcan is like is getting people and families to realize like, oh, it's not going to happen in my family.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to be stigmatized as if I have Narcan, like one of my sons or daughters could possibly be addicted to drugs, and that's the stigma in high schools too. It's like, high schools used to be like, well, we don't have that issue. But every high school has that issue, whether they want to see it or they don't see it, right? Yeah. And unfortunately, this day and age, it's a lot of family members are divorced, and it's a single mom or single dad taking care of their parents, and they just don't have the time because they're working full time to keep an eye on what their kids are doing. And kids are peer pressured through social media and sports, and they're going to parties because they want to fit in. And then the big thing, like 10 years ago was kids would go to parties and they'd have punch bowl parties. And what a punch bowl party was they'd get like a punch bowl and fill it up with every kid to get in the party would have to bring whatever was in their medicine cabinet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then they would just randomly take a pill and whatever it was, that's what they were getting high on.
Yeah, I remember
Unfortunate thing now is that so many pressed pills are coming into our country that they all look like Xanax, they all look like Vicodin, they all look like oxys, but they're really not. They're pressed pills with fentanyl. Yeah. And people are dying left and right from taking them.
It's crazy. I remember about 10, 11, 12 years ago, maybe a little bit more, because my son was like in 9th and 10th grade, and he's 29 now. So go back, let's see, 10 years would have been 11th grade, 10th grade. So 12 years ago was when that was a big deal.
Big deal, yeah.
That was a big thing. I remember thinking to myself, and I'd already been sober too.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, because I wasn't really like into, like, I wouldn't want to just take some random muscle relaxer. I was like, I was very specific. I'm either I'm smoking weed, smoking cocaine, and you know what I mean? It's because the progression of my disease, like I started out, hey, listen, like I said, hey, the family's drinking, partying. Yeah. Now let's smoke a little weed. Somebody introduced you to cocaine. It's the 80s. Then they show you how to smoke it. Then they show you how to shoot it. And then from there, you discover heroin because it makes you want to like come down a little bit, and that was never really like a big thing for me, but and then I discovered meth after that, and that became the progression of my disease. And
me too.
Thankfully, I made it this far, but only after like pain and suffering, But that's an interesting thing, and that's kind of what brings me to our next little topic is like how we get where we're at in today's the businesses that you're in. Where did it all how did you get inspired to come into this arena? Paul, what do you?
So my background is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I never really had a drug problem. I was so into sports. I never really did anything until I was in my 20s. I grew up very religious. My family was very religious. My problem was I used to get in a lot of fights. And what I mean by a lot of fights is I had a problem. I probably was in maybe like 200 fights by the time I was probably 20. I was in jail at 15 for quite a while in Arizona, and I got in the system, and I was in jail again and again and again and again and again. And then when I was in jail when I was 29, I kind of started waking up and getting a little bit more mature. And at that moment, I didn't even really think I'd live to probably be 35. But one thing that that really hit home to me is I wasn't a bad person. I just did a lot of bad things. I had a lot of bad behaviors. I don't know if it was my brother dying when I was young. I don't know if it was my best friend dying when I was 10. There's a lot of different things that maybe led me to be how I was, but I was never a bad person. Mm-hmm. And when I was in jail, I met a lot of people that were also not bad people. They just made a lot of bad mistakes. So when I got out, I had to do about 2 years of therapy, and it was at a group therapy setting. Mm-hmm. And in this group therapy setting, the last year, I probably led the group, and I really found a lot of satisfaction in helping people. And even when I was in jail, I would really talk to people and be like, look, you're not a bad person. Your parents were terrible, or your upbringing and your environment and whatever. But if I can do it, you can do it. This is how I did it, and this is how I can help you. And so when I was going through that group, I realized that I really enjoyed helping people understand that they're not bad and to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what led me to want to work in treatment, and that's what led me to want to start my own treatment center, which is Bright Path Mental Health, to help people when they need help the most. And I initially was going to work in jails. My dad worked in jails forever and said, you know what, Paul, you should work in treatment, because more people that are in treatment want to get help than people that are in jail. And so that really is why I do what I do, is I want to give people a better life. And I want to help them when they need help the most.
Yeah, I love that. That's that. You know, it's so interesting. I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because it doesn't have to. I'm sure Wren's going to tell us his story too about how he got here, and my story is probably more similar to Wren's.
Yeah.
But there's one thing that is the same, and the theme is there's a theme, and it's called. It's number one, finding a purpose, like being in a place of brokenness, and then finding out that your the thing that you have to give is hope, and you find purpose in helping other people, and then that motivates you. And it's a crazy, this is what it's all about right now, is so that to inspire, at Surf City Recovery, our mission statement is to inspire the courage to change.
I love that.
And that is the essence, because I remember that is like my purpose, is because we're trying to inspire the young, the old, the weak, the broken. That if I could do it, if I can be broken and go from jails and institutions to overdose and death and shooting dope, and I can make it out of it, so can you. And then you make that your goal, and that's really like how we all have gotten to where we're at today. And I think that that's the message to the people that are out there and their family or their loved ones are dying right now, is that, hey, if guys like us that can go from like you said, being the violent person, ending in jail, in and out of jail because of that violence, you find all of a sudden that, hey, you know what, I've got something, and I want to share it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And it did give me purpose. Right when like I said, at 29, I got out around 30, and I went back to school, got my degree in psychology to become a clinician, to do all this, because I also learned, you can't just do something because you want to do it. You have to go, excuse me, you have to go through the steps the society wants you to go through to be able to have a certain job. And I think that's something that I also learned in jail from people, is that they didn't understand, I want to do this. Well, you have to do certain things to get to that point. You have to go to school and get a degree. You have to get a master's degree, or society will not let you do these jobs that you want to do. Right. But there was another thing I learned selling real estate when I was really, really young. I met a lot of rich people, and I got to think, they're not any different than me. Like, they just went to work every day, or they got lucky, or they did something. But you can do anything you want in life, but you have to earn it. You have to take the steps to be able to get to it, or you won't be able to do whatever you want in life.
We call that the footwork.
The footwork. So how did you get into the business?
Oh, man, my story is a lot different than Paul's. Gosh, this is, what I've learned in life too, is the more vulnerable you get, the more people you reach, I think you can help. And so my story was different. I had a great mom and dad, still do today. I love them both. And, but I had an older brother that, I didn't learn until maybe I was 12 or 14 that he was my half brother, and my mom had been with him pregnant, and my dad was my mom's boss, and I think my dad always had a crush on my mom, and anyways, he was invited to the wedding. My mom was going to get married, and really what happened is the guy never showed up to the wedding. And my dad was there with my mom. And,
what?
And
wait a minute.
So my mom was pregnant with another guy, and she sent out wedding invitations
to marry the guy that she was your half brother's dad, father, not dad.
Yeah. And
they're gonna get married. There's a wedding taking place. And they're all at the wedding.
Yep. And so my dad was invited to the wedding. He was in the wedding, like family and friends.
Yeah.
And, the guy never showed up at the altar. And later on learned that unfortunately he was abusive. And it was hindsight the best thing that ever happened.
Right.
I think for my mom. My dad was there to help her, and he befriended her and was there for the rest of her 9 months of carrying my brother.
Right.
And then my mom had my brother, and my dad was there at the hospital, and soon after that they got married, and then they decided to have me, and I came out. And so growing up, the family was great, and I have a great outside family too, very supportive. But a lot of things started happening, as he got older, a lot of defiant and angry, and not knowing how to take his aggressions out. So he started taking them out on my mom and myself, and my dad worked nights as a longshoreman. And so he wasn't around for a good amount of our teen years, meaning he was at work,
Right.
My brother would just snap and just go off on tangents. In hindsight, working in the medical field, and I'm not a doctor, but I think he's untreated bipolar 1, with severe anger issues. His father had anger issues, and his father had anger issues, and his father was an alcoholic and heroin addict, and so unfortunately, my brother and I were like, he was my arch enemy, right? And no matter what, he always beat the shit out of me, and I'd always try to, fight him or defend myself or defend the arguments that him and my mom were going through,
right.
And get in the middle of it and get my ass kicked, and some very gnarly things that had happened between my brother and I. And I would take martial arts and try to defend myself and be a better fighter. And then I've started having friends that we would, gang up on him. And I mean, there's some violent things that happened between him and I, right? Okay. And I finally realized, and this is the sad thing, in hindsight, this is a long time ago, but...
How old was he?
He was 4 years older than me,
okay.
So I'm 55 now,
right,
and this has started happening when I was 12 to 14 years old.
So he was a lot older than you, so it was a lot easier for him to beat you up.
Yeah, a lot easier. Yeah.
Toss you around.
And he was biologically just looked a lot different. He was bigger, taller.
Right.
I'm not a huge guy, but I learned to try to fight him as best I could, and then I learned really early on, like the only way that I could control my brother is he had a drug problem. He was smoking pot and doing cocaine, and
little pot, little cocaine.
I started selling drugs to him, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
And for the first time in my life, I learned control over somebody else, and that became an ego thing for me, right? Like I had control over somebody that I could never have control over, no matter what I did. Yeah. And for the first time in my life, I had control over somebody that I was super scared of. And from that point on, it took off, and I became this drug dealer, and I lived these two different personalities, two different lives. Like I had the golden child that did sports and got good grades, and then this other side where I sold drugs, you know, and he was my first client.
Right.
And from there, that progressed into selling to other people because I started liking the attention. Everybody wanted to hang out with me, and I was the limelight of the party. You know?
I get it.
And that took into a long road of deception and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, and finally getting caught. Right.
Yeah.
Long story short, I'm sitting in jail for the first time, and I could write a whole book about that. It was the first time I went to jail. Was
you should pull that closer.
The first time I went to jail was they beat a guy to death in my barracks, and I almost had to be a part of that. So that was very traumatic for me. Going, God, if this is jail, I'd hate to want to go to prison. And I was trying to fight a 7-year sentence over my head. Long story short, and that can be a whole nother story of another topic of all the stuff that went down in that system. And the guys are still in jail, looking at 25 years to life because of the death of this other inmate. To get out, my dad didn't know what to do with me at this point, and he had a friend that always worked on his cars, and he was luckily in recovery. His name is Mike Evans. God love that guy if he's out there.
I know him.
You know Mike Evans?
Totally,
Yeah. So
of course I know.
So
him.
Mike Evans did all of my dad's mechanic work on his cars, and they were good friends.
Right.
And so Mike reached out to his good friend, which ended up is now my sponsor, Greg Olahaver, and he had this sober living called Keystone. And so he picked me up from jail and drove me to that sober living and said, I'm going to pay for like 2 weeks of your sober living, and if you don't figure it out on your own, you're dead to me. Yeah. And that was like heavy for me.
Yeah, I could tell.
For the first time, I knew, he was serious.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, you always promise, to do the right thing, but it just never worked out for me. So I'd always say, I promise this time I'll do this and this and this, and right. So, but that time it wasn't. I knew that I couldn't do that. Ask him for help anymore. Right. So, long story short, that was about 17 years ago. So from there, I became slowly, after a year, a house manager. And then after the house manager, I saved up money and opened up more sober livings with my sponsor. And we had Keystone Sober Living for Men. And still one of them's in existence today, the one I got sober at in Costa Mesa, one of the few places that got licensed, which I'm proud of because we helped to get it licensed. And then he wanted to downsize because he's getting ready to retire and move to Oregon. So I then hindsight, so I was working as a house manager, and then I started working in treatment, and then before you knew it, I went back to school and got my KDAC and became a counselor, and then learned. I'm always been intrigued in businesses and learned how to operate and run the business, and moved my way up all the way to director of operations, to running a treatment facility, and then opening my own sober livings called Higher Purpose Recovery, right? Yeah. Because my big thing, just like yours, is I found out that if everyone can find their purpose, right, then the light comes on in their head, and they really have a passion of working. Like for me, in this field, like I have a passion for it, so it doesn't feel like work, right? And so if somebody else finds, and it doesn't have to be in this field, but if somebody finds a purpose, and we all have a purpose, and when they find that purpose, the sky's the limit. You know what I mean? Like you could just keep doing it and not feel like you're working, and really be successful at it, right? Whatever that may be. But every one of us has a purpose. And so that's why I came up with the name Higher Purpose Recovery, because we all have a purpose, and I try to help each one of my clients find that purpose in their life so they have something to live for.
You know, it's funny, on the last show, though, I was just talking to somebody about this word, because this is was the thing that had been missing in my life. And when I got into recovery, and I don't know where I heard this, and it was either in the rooms or from, I would tell you the person's name where I heard this from, because everything I've ever said has been, I learned somewhere from someplace else. I've never made up a thing in my life, to be honest with you. But it was the 2 most important days of your life. And I said this earlier, and just to remind people, the value of this is that one was the day you were born, and then the second, and this is the most important day of your life, is when you find out why. because we're all searching for the purpose. What are we here for? And it's kind of crazy to find out that your purpose is to help other people, right, recover from alcohol addiction, anger, violence, mental health, substance abuse, and in that their purpose is what?
Just to give them a purpose, to save a life.
That's it. Right? And it's like, so you found your purpose was to help other people.
Right.
And now the hole has been filled.
Oh, yeah.
Like literally, now there's going to be gaps, right?
Yep.
But what do they tell you? Go help another person.
Yep.
Go help. Who you help? Like when you got problems, what do they say? They tell you, how are you with God and who are you helping?
You're right.
And let's get to the brass tacks because if you're not doing those two, if you're not thinking of those two things, there's only one other thing you're thinking of. And you know what that is, right?
Yourself.
That's yourself. And that's where you get in trouble because when you're only thinking of yourself, that's when it all goes sideways. That's how you end up in prison. That's how you end up hurting other people.
Yeah. That's so true.
And then so like now it's like you ask somebody, hey, you know what the two most important days of your life are? One, the day you were born, and then the two, the day you find out why.
Yeah, that's so true.
I love that.
And
Paul was just talking about that too, is filling the gap. Like when you were in jail, right? Like you started filling that void when you started helping other people.
That's when he found his purpose.
Yeah, and he nailed it too. Like I felt like I had this hole inside of me.
Yeah.
And no matter how much I drank, no matter what I did,
or who you beat up,
because
that's the other part of what you're doing. Is like, that's another part of like really trying to fill the void.
Yeah.
People who have like the kind of situations like you're talking, they're in like this massive amount of pain and they're inflicting it on other people because they've got this giant hole.
Yeah.
And the only way they think they can fill it is by like literally. It's kind of a crazy.
It is
exactly right.
It's so weird because like, and I'm not gonna ever try to fix this broken record, but it's like ever since. The more I get out of myself and do acts of kindness for other people and not brag about it, like many miracles happen in my life and good things happen in my life. And it's just like for the last 17 years, like it's not been perfect, but it's almost been pretty fucking goddamn just a slow incline of life just getting more successful and just happier. And it's always because I'm helping somebody.
Yeah,
I'm trying,
that's
know
the main
what I mean?
thing.
Yeah.
And look at like your life today.
Yeah.
I think, the name of the podcast is the Sober Voyager podcast, right? Which in essence means we're on a journey. We're our destination. And so and I was like, I'll repeat the same things over and over and over because it really I want to really hit home with people because if you take anything away from any of these shows on whether it's my show or anybody else's show is the success when people are willing to do the work they go from being jails and institutions like you go from like the lifestyle the life choices the places you're sitting in jail you're facing 7 years you're in jail you're finding purpose but the success that you're having right now in your life is available to everybody out there.
Absolutely.
The opportunity for everybody out there to like learn from you, to grow with you, to align themselves with your programs and the people that you are aligned with. Yeah. Like the whole point is community.
Yeah.
And you've created an amazing community where you can show people exactly how you've done it. Yep. And they will in turn go, wow, if that guy can do it, I mean, certainly they're probably going, well, if those guys can do it, I know I can do it.
Exactly.
And I hope people take that position because the truth is the only difference between us and you, really, us and wherever you're at, is we had a beginning. And it starts with that surrender. Yeah. And it really becomes this place of the starting point of everybody. And every day there's a new surrender that takes place.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I love that.
You know, and we get this opportunity, and I think, especially with the end overdose awareness thing, and some of the topics we're talking about right now, is we don't want to see more people die.
No.
And so, what we want to see people do is get introduced to each other. Yeah. The people that are on the journey together. It's like, hey, get on the boat. You've heard this. You've heard the analogy of the God analogy. How does it go? It's like, if you're on a boat, if you're in a boat with God, I forget how, I haven't heard this one in a long time, but it's the one where, think about it, it's the one where God's not God's just he's up the front of the boat directing, and the boat's not going. If you're waiting, it's like you're in a boat praying for God to do something for you, right? God's not going to do the paddling.
No,
you got to do the paddling. All he's going to do is sit at the front of the boat. You got to do the work. You know, but the thing about it is you got to get in the boat.
Well, you got to get to the boat.
You got to get to the boat, right? So like we got to get in the boat, and that's what we're here to do is provide a boat for people to get into, so that they can get on the journey together with us. And I think that's what's like the most important part, because if we're out there in social media right now, we're all trying to do something, whether it's like from the social, like you're a marketing company too, you guys represent not just your higher purpose and not just what's the name of Bright Path,
but Webserv.
But Webserv is the one hosting it. That's where you guys are essentially like you're a marketing company to help people produce results, basically, whether it's from
on a
SEO,
macro level.
On a macro level.
Webserv is Webserv is really unique because, for one, most everyone that works there is in recovery, right? And they all have their own story, but they're also really intelligent on how to drive traffic to websites, right? And you need to know what you're doing to be able to put a good team together that can help. So 99% of Webserv's business is treatment facilities, and what we do is help have them have a lot of traffic to their site so people call for help. So if someone's looking for best treatment in Orange County, like we help you to be on the map in Google, right, to say, Surf City is so Surf City, call Surf City, right? And usually, and they've done a really remarkable job, and so is Paul working there. And
well, I gave a presentation in Austin in April, and one of the things that I really wanted to hit home on, because of who I am, and kind of piggybacking on what you said, like the reason we all do this is not only to save lives, but to give people the opportunity to live the best life that they can live.
Right.
Not being 30 years old, strung out. We want them to, by the time they get older, to be able to have kids and have a family and do all this. Last year, my company, Webserv, we put 1,300 people into treatment through digital marketing, through all of our different clients.
Right, yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
It's not like how much money we made. It's not, how much money we helped 1,300 people just last year.
Yeah, that's powerful. I never really thought of it like that. You can analyze what it is you guys are doing for all these other centers, and then really it boils down to what your efforts have accumulatively done. Right. Like, so I know that I've made the mistake of never doing it. Like I've been in business, and like I was telling you, we don't have the budget, we don't have the stuff. We're out there trying to beat feet, and it's like I wish that I could go back in time and align myself with a company like yours, because I would have been. It would be a different thing for me. I'm not like, I feel at a loss, like at any time that you think, like you don't want your ship to go down. There's that saying like that. But when it comes to marketing and advertising, people get so disenfranchised with the industry that because they're throwing money to people and they don't see the results for it, and it's a long game.
It is.
And I never really had the reresources to do it. And so like I know that personally I would love to be able to go, okay, let's get this thing started again. And hopefully I'll be able to play the long game as time goes on for our company too, But in 10 years into the business, like we focus primarily on helping men recover. We've organically still been able to stay in the game. But we do want to be able to expand, and it's like that's where it really is important to align yourself with a place you can rely on, depend on, and count on to produce quality results for you.
It does help. It helps immensely. But also the fact that you're an ethical, good person that runs a good treatment center, that works too.
That's what's been working for us. Now we just want to get a little. We want to be able to jump in the game and do.
You want to be able to help more people.
We want to help more people. That's it.
That's the whole goal, right?
And that's why we're here right now, because we're hoping that during even the conversations that we have now, that people will understand that it is like there's a saying in the daily reflections. It's one of those daily meditation book. It's like AA approved. But when I first up, there's a saying. There's a reading, and I think it's January 3rd, and it says, "Begin where you are."
I like that. Perfect.
I didn't make it up, but whether it's in marketing, whether it's in wherever you're at right now, wherever your family is, wherever they're at, you think there's this huge thing. Well, I can't do it. I can't get out of my house. I can't do this.
So far behind.
I'm so far behind. What am I going to do? What's it going to do? How am I going to accomplish anything? Because I was 39 when I got sober. And things weren't looking good.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that sentence because I got sober January 2nd, 2005.
Oh, okay.
So my sponsor had given me the daily reflection.
Yeah.
He goes, Rich goes, I want you just to read this one day at a time. And we'll come out to the car, we'll read it, and then we'll talk about it. And I was like, I was homeless, and I was like worried about I lost custody of my son. I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? I have nowhere to go right now. I got no money. Yeah. And I came across that reading.
That's cool.
It just said, begin where you are.
I love that.
It was so, it's
powerful.
Such a profound at a level that I couldn't even tell you. And it's in everything that we do, whether it's the marketing, whether it's the end overdose, the Narcan, like, hey, listen, the community needs to begin now.
Yeah.
Forget about what it's going to look like or what it could be like. It's like what's happening right now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up about the community because we're all addiction and mental health professionals.
Yeah.
We know about Narcan.
Yeah.
Most people don't.
Right. Yeah.
Like it is the awareness for Narcan and this amazing drug that can save lives. Not a lot of people know about it. And that's why this end overdose event, we're not just trying to make it like your typical addiction collective. We're trying to blend the lines of music. We're trying to blend the lines of Hollywood. We're trying to blend the lines of addiction. We're trying to put them all together to bring awareness because overdose doesn't just affect the addiction world.
Right. No.
Like it affects the families that don't even, I mean, there's so much more to it. And that's kind of our main goal is bringing awareness to everyone.
You know what's kind of a sad thing, and I was going to say this earlier when we were talking about like the households and like, hey, listen, wherever you're at, whether you're the parent, you're the brother, you're the sister, and your kids are growing up and they're at their junior high school, they're going to get into it, they're going to start the progression's going to go. So like, and here's something that this is like a thought, right? Because you know how like we don't know when we're going to cut our finger, right?
Yeah, no.
But
never.
you know what we have in our house? Every household has
Band-Aids.
one. It's a Band-Aid.
Yep.
Because it's there to protect your children. Yep. And they make commercials when the mom comes out, she's got the Band-Aid and she puts it on her child and she goes, oh, isn't that nice? Yeah. I remember they don't do the Curate or whatever. Remember the commercials they used to just make? You don't see them anymore, right? No. But it's just the same with aspirin. You don't know when you're going to have a headache, but when you got one, hey, you got any Tylenol? Anybody got any ibuprofen? You want it. And now the same thing goes along the lines of Narcan because, and especially if you identify, and it's an easy thing to do. Yeah. Hey, like we're boys, right? Yeah. And then like if you got an angry, violent kid that's listens to rap music, rock music, any kind of music, right? And he's like staying out late at night. He smells like weed. He's starting to smoke weed. He wants to vape. He wants an electric bike. He's wheeling down the street. He's playing ditch 'em. He's ditching school. Guess what you might want to have in your cabinet?
Just Narcan, just in case.
Just in case, because you don't ever know when you're going to need it. But when you do, you'll be glad you have it. Just like a hydrogen peroxide. Yeah. Remember everybody used to have that at their house?
Oh, yeah. Everybody still does.
They still do.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if your son's listening to Juice WRLD all the time. And depressing rap music and a guy that actually overdosed and died.
Yeah, exactly. Like, exactly. And they're actually like singing about stuff like that. It's so crazy.
Suicide
all the time. And so it's like one of those
Paul
things
says that because he's got 3
I'm
kids.
dealing with it with my 15-year-old.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying is like the fact that it's like it should be looked at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody, and if your kids are like on the higher risk spectrum for overdose, why wouldn't you have it available to you?
Exactly.
So like that's like the most important thing that we
think.
Could do.
And I think again that's where the stigmatism comes in, right? Like families don't want to take a look at that. Hey, my kid, I'm not doing the right parenting. My kid might be going down this road, and it's not that you're not doing the right parenting. Yeah. It's maybe that you just in this time and age, unfortunately, there's fentanyls everywhere, and you're working so hard to support to have food and a roof over your head for your kids that
100%.
You may not have 100% of your time to be devoted to watching over your kid. Right. Yeah. And you got to let them grow up sometime, and you can't be helicoptering mom them all the time either. No. So Yeah, it's come to a point where Narcan should be like Band-Aids in a household.
It really is true.
And it
But
was
a lot
crazy.
of people can't afford it.
I know.
That's why we're
that's
doing what we're doing.
exactly. And it's not.
I mean, the guys that started the company, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they were firemen in the LA County Fire Department. Paramedics. Right. And they were seeing so many overdoses that they were able to get the Narcan and then start this nonprofit organization to raise awareness and be able to distribute Narcan to society a lot easier. So it's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool, man. It's a pretty good, it's a good deal. It's like kind of one of those things, even myself included, like when we really look at like what we're doing here and what we're doing in treatment, we're doing in recovery, 12-step communities. And now you can go to like, AA clubs and stuff like that, and they got Narcan on deck.
That's rad.
You know, and that's pretty much a pretty new thing.
Yeah,
in the
that's
last
cool.
couple
Yeah,
years.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, it wasn't
it's like
around
super
years ago.
readily available at the AA clubs and stuff like that. So that's a really powerful thing that we see taking place. But then again, it's rarely going to. It's more prevalent. It's going to happen in people's homes, in their basements, in their bathrooms, and parents aren't going to know what to do. Even if they had it, they wouldn't even know what to do with it. You know.
Yeah. So that's what.
It does happen.
Yeah. It happens all the time.
Yeah. I mean, every person here knows somebody that overdosed.
Oh yeah.
All the time.
I mean.
It's sad.
I mean,
more than 10
the worst 4 years have been the worst 4 years ever.
Yeah, it happens.
Literally.
I know someone like once a month.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. It's I'm always going into Paul's office going, God, did you remember this guy? He died.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
we had 2 people 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was like, holy crap.
Yeah. It's just part of the game. It's like one, and I was telling, there was and I don't want to be cold or anything like that because I'm not, because I've been left for dead in a garage before too. I was shooting dope when I was a kid, and I know what it's like to be 17 years old and sticking needles in my arm and shooting up and overdosing, being left for dead, and also waking up in a hospital not knowing how I got there. I mean,
gnarly.
It's just gnarly, you know. And so, but I was telling, you know, we're dealing one of our staff. They unfortunately had to experience one of their friends. Same thing happened over the weekend. You know, back home, and there's this sense of like, what could I have done?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And this is where and it's like a lot of times. And here's the problem with it all is, if the individual themselves, and this is where, you know, having it on deck so that you can react, because a lot of times these people that are like, you know, the addict, ourselves included, myself included, I'm just one bad idea away from relapse, and I know that. And that's why I'm hyper vigilant about my recovery and sharing recovery with as many people as I can, because I know what's possible out there. But there's another part of this understanding of, hey, listen, there's only so much I can do to help somebody recover, and there's really nothing I can do when somebody decides to relapse. Other short of like shrink wrapping them to a chair, which, you know, you can't really do it. And I tell my friends, hey, listen, I give everybody permission to shrink wrap. If they catch me going out and I'm telling them, no, this is a decision I made, I can tell you have permission to shrink wrap me to a table and then make me sit there, and you could like IV feed me through my nose if you want until I come to my senses. But the individual, there's like this the responsibility. It's not like, it's like one of those things where it's such an area of like, oh man, you know, as much as I'm empathetic toward it, it's like there's a part of me that gets super angry. You know, with the people that don't want this, don't get it, they're not willing to take it, and I understand that they're just not there yet. But there's a part of me that gets like really wants to say, you know, I want to get mad. You know, you want to get mad at the people, and because those people, the people that are, it's not the people that are loved ones, myself included, are making decisions not based on.
It's funny, you brought something up that kind of really just stuck with me just now. Is when people pass away and you're connected to those people, there's always someone or more than one person that goes, what could I have done differently? And then you start reminiscing all the things that happened prior to that day, and you're like, there is a red flag. There is a red flag. There was a red flag, right? But and then you have this grief of like, I could have done something different. But and the reality of it with Narcan, right, is like, man, if you are nervous at all with any of your loved ones that they're going down the wrong road, just pick it up. Pick up Narcan, reach out to me, Paul, Rich, and any of us can get you Narcan. You know what I mean?
100%.
And because you never know, right? There's so many things that I play back in my tape. I had a roommate during COVID that I had 7 years, and he slowly went back out. And I gave him, the ultimatum was like, if you continue smoking pot and drinking, you're gonna have to move out of my house, right? And then it was like, I went back to meetings, I'm doing better, but he still had this girl that he wasn't being totally honest with, and she was a normie, right?
Right.
But she liked to go out and drink, and so he would go out with her, and he would drink with her.
Yeah.
But then he started picking up pills and getting pills, and he was getting them on the streets. And I've had like 3 friends, close friends, all in the same, like 20, 21, and 22, just like back to back to back, almost the same month. All die of getting pressed pills on the street and taking a lethal dose of it. And I could have probably, in my head, I'm like, if I had Narcan in the house, but hindsight too, he had taken it at like 11 o'clock, I believe, at night when we were all going to bed. And I woke up and went to work the next day, and then his girlfriend started texting me like on Instagram, because she didn't have my number, like, hey, I'm really worried about Sam. He hasn't returned my calls. It's not like him. Can you check to see if he's home? And as soon as I pulled up to my house, his car's there, and I'm messaging her back going, he's at my house. She's like, please go in and see if he's okay. Right. And I opened the door to his room, and he's kneeled over his bed like in a praying position in his boxers, and he was completely purple.
Damn.
Like, and I called 911. I rolled him over, and he had one eye open still, and his hands were like clasped together like this, and so with 911, I'm like, I thought for a second he might have been alive still, right? So then I started CPR on him right away, and and the cops were on their way, and the paramedics, and then they got there, and unfortunately they told me to step back, and they just said they pronounced him dead,
Right.
So it was tough.
Yeah.
But like I was like, if I had Narcan, maybe I could have saved him, But even at that time, and this was like in 2020, even at that time, the apparently after the autopsy, they said he had such a large amount of fentanyl in his system that even the fentanyl or the Narcan wouldn't have saved him.
Yeah, sometimes guys got to go to the hospital and get intravenous Narcan intravenously given to them.
Yeah.
And one of our staff, that's how he's our program director. But before he got here, that's what saved him is like the Narcan wasn't working, but they had to do it intravenous. Yeah, and it worked. And it's like, God. Thank God.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like the tales of recovery is like goes pretty.
So let me tell people out there, if they wanted to do our event, go to this website. Let me make sure I say it right on the air. It is events.webserv.io/in-overdose. So events, events.webserv, webserv.io/in-overdose.
Got it.
And you can register to come out and enjoy the events for 2 days with us.
Yeah. Stoked. I'll be there. I know I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna do the $400 day thing.
Perfect.
Do the yoga, do the pickleball.
Perfect.
I don't do golf because the last time I went golfing, I actually like when you like swing the golf club and the head of the golf club hits thing. It did that, and it rang my arm in such a way that it was like to this day. It was on hole number 1.
No way.
And I swear to God. And then my friends were like, "You're fine, just keep playing." And I kept on playing.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to the second or the third hole, I go, "You know what? I'm not doing this anymore. There's something wrong with my arm." They go, "Oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine." And you know what? It's been like 6 months.
Wow.
And it's just barely. Every once in a while, when I try to like curl something heavily,
it hurts.
It hurts right there. Like if I try to right now it feels pretty good, but for the longest. So I'm like afraid of the golf club.
Yeah,
now,
I hear you.
Because I was never a golfer. You know?
No, I'm not a golfer either.
But I'm not much at pickleball, but I do know one thing about pickleball. It's a very low entry level sport.
It is.
And it takes me a couple minutes to play.
Yeah.
and then I've played about probably 10 games in my whole life, but that's enough for me to be able to play as, you know.
Yeah, it's not going to be like we're going to have all beginners, intermediate people playing, so it'll be fun.
And then what's the sound bath and the yoga thing? What's that about?
We have a certified yoga instructor that's going to do...
Everybody's going to do yoga?
And then we also have a certified sound bath person.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you just come out for the dinner and for the events, I promise you it'll be worth your time. I mean, you could also stay in the hotel where the event is at, which is the Torrey Hilton right there.
Yeah.
So the dinner is overlooking the ocean.
Right.
I mean, it's the view and everything.
So people are staying at the hotel too?
Yeah. So
maybe I should do that.
Yeah. So you
can
get
any chicks there because now I'm recently divorced.
Yeah,
so
maybe
I'll be able to.
There's gonna be plenty. Friday night's the night.
Well, you know, because I am divorced now.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it's a sad thing in my life right now. But it's like
there'd be a lot of.
I always have dreams about my ex-wife still. Every other day, I swear to God, I don't even know if I don't think I'm over it yet.
You're probably not. We have a room block.
I'm just kidding. I'm not because I still my head's all fucked up, like especially lately.
We have a room block for $229 for this amazing hotel.
Oh, I'm definitely doing that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So
man.
I'm down with that.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
You'll be able to do the dinner Friday night gala.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep.
Then you'll be able to do pickleball the next day. Try yoga with Larissa if you want, or sound bath.
I'm good. I do yoga like 3 times a week.
I do events and different things that are at the amazing
Larissa,
pool there.
she's like their director of Alter Mental Health, so she's also a licensed yoga instructor.
Nice.
Yeah,
and then we'll have that lunch in another room overlooking the ocean. I mean, it's not just going to be just a normal dinner.
Yeah,
it's going to be amazing.
So that sounds like it. So how many days is the event?
So for the 4th and the 5th of October, which is a Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. You stay Friday.
I would go there Friday, dinner, the whole
Friday's the whole 9 yards.
and then spend the night Saturday for yoga and pickleball,
and then it's over that day lunch. But then go home stay one more night and go home Sunday.
Yeah,
do you get 2 nights for 2?
I have certain people that I'm getting 2 nights for.
Oh, I'm gonna do the 2 nights because it's like I don't want to just go from 4 o'clock and then check out at 11.
Weekend,
you just do the weekend for that kind of money. That's a deal. If I we'll like make that up. Yeah, I'm doing that for sure.
We'll get you the hook.
Yeah,
it really is going to be a next level event where it's not going to be like your typical collective of the addiction recovery space. It's going to be. I mean, the lighting that we're doing, overlooking the ocean. I mean, it's going to be amazing, and we have really top-notch speakers. It'll really be worth your time.
Yeah,
I think what we'll do is because it's in October, we still got October 4th.
It's basically 2 months away.
Yeah, 2 months away. So in the next 2 months, while we're doing all this, because we're going to be on regularly promoting this show, and what we'll do is we'll continue on our webpage and our social media. We'll get all the information, even more information.
Okay.
And we'll start really plugging it, promoting End Overdose, and we'll get everybody geared up for it. So that we can get as much community awareness out there as possible.
Yeah. We would really appreciate that.
I'm on board 100%.
Okay,
for the fact that we're here to save lives. And what better way to not just provide treatment services to people, but to provide the Band-Aid that people don't know they need.
Yeah.
To have it available when they need it.
I think
we'll kind of go with that theme
right on,
there.
Man.
So that's our slogan, is save a life.
Save a life.
Save a life.
We're going to treat it like Band-Aids. Okay, so let's wrap it up. I just want to thank everybody for coming. Any last words? One last
No, just super stoked to do this with you, Rich.
Yeah,
so thank you.
fun.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to continuing doing all kinds of things with you. So.
Yeah, we got more stuff planned. We're gonna
help us end overdose, man. That's what we're trying to do.
All right, let's do it.
Cool.
All right, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you guys. Let's get this. We'll see you in a couple of days probably. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you very much.